Does it make me a bad person if I really don't want to do this video?
No, you're talking about one of the worst teams in the league.
Do we even know what? I don't even know what to call this team, man. The Washington football team.
Basically,
So is that what we're going with? The Washington football team?
pretty much.
I mean, on the one hand, we could wait until Monday when they announce the new logo.
Just do it. Get it over with. It's not going to make the
Uh,
draft any better.
Alright. Well, in that case, hello and welcome back to Blow Up the Team. Jeremy here today with Matt.
What's up?
Um, if you couldn't tell, today we are going to be going to the 2020 NFL draft of a certain team located in Washington, D.C. that is currently going through a name change. So I am going to go through every means necessary to try to not refer to them as their old team name. Let's see how long it takes for me to slip up. Oh, excuse me, slip up. I got an over-under on 5 minutes. What do you got?
I mean, listen, I can already tell I'm going to refer to them as their team name currently at some point because I'm not going to think about it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
I think it's called the Deadskins.
Oh.
That's what this organization is.
Oh no! Listen, man, you're offending.
Wrong.
You're offending Washington football
Like
fans.
5 people, great.
Oh my God!
I actually know one of them, this woman Monica, who works for the owner.
Well, and I know
He's
two others, so.
Yeah, so great. There's 2 more. Perfect.
Okay.
And that's not including the Snyders, because God knows Dan Snyder doesn't give a shit about his team.
Okay. Anyways, before we get to the video, like usual, we do not own the clips to any of the videos that I will be showing. The clips to any of the videos. Let's try that again. We do not own the rights to any of the clips that will be shown during the video today. So be sure to check out the link in the description to see where I got those from. It's actually going to be a little bit different than usual as well. I went looking for a season highlight video for this team, and the longest one was 10 minutes long. So we have two. We have one of this team from last year, and then we also have one of their first round selection for another few minutes, just so that I can make sure we had enough footage.
Quality. Quality.
Listen, man, I can't make the highlights come out of nowhere. They either exist or they don't exist. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I guess a team that was that bad probably doesn't it's fair.
Alright, anyways, I think that is enough of a precursor. I say it's about time to get into the video. And I say that a good place to start off is to, as unfortunate as it is for you Washington fans out there, we've got to at least talk about what happened last season. If I was you, I wouldn't want to either, but it has to be done. 3-13 in a division that was not particularly good. Even the Eagles who won the division, the Eagles and the Cowboys who were fighting for the division, neither of them
They
were.
limped across. They fell down across the finish line.
Yeah, like none of the. Listen, let's just call it what it is. Even as an Eagles fan, I feel comfortable saying none of the 4 teams in this division were particularly good last season. Especially not the Giants or the Washington team that we are currently watching that I almost just slipped up on. Um, none of these 4 teams are good, but especially the fact that they played the Giants and the Dolphins, which they beat the Dolphins. I think they beat the Giants once as well. I think those were 2 of their 3 wins, and they beat the Panthers. I believe those are the 3 wins, if I remember correctly. So, to be fair, they also have a very young quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, who has to get used to kind of everything that's going on in NFL speed and trying to figure out what's going to be going on. I'm actually interested to see kind of what they're going to do with this quarterback situation here with Alex Smith and Dwayne Haskins, if they're going to allow Haskins to continue to make a run at starting. I think it makes a lot of sense for them to do that, especially since you don't know what Alex Smith is going to look like coming off that terrible leg injury he had. It's just this team is just in such an unfortunate situation because, like, so much like they have a few solid young pieces to try to build around for the future, but I don't think that they even really have like a complete young core to build around yet. So they're still trying to figure that out. And then like they had the guys that just kept getting, like Jordan Reed was supposed to be one of the best tight ends in the league. He just kept getting hurt year after year after year, so they actually released him this season or this off season. So yeah, it's just kind of a unfortunate time to be a fan of this football team. I'm not gonna lie to you. Their offense was not great. 31st in yards per game, dead last in passing yards, 22nd in rushing yards, and dead last in points per game. The offense couldn't really produce. I believe his first name is Terry Mclaurin. Did I get his? Is it Terry McLaurin? Did I get his name right? Do you happen to know off the top of your head?
Uh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's Terry McLaurin. He showed a lot of promise at the wide receiver position, and he showed some. Uh, I mean, Dwayne Haskins had a couple moments that could make you say, maybe he is that guy for us going forward. But it's so hard to tell where this team is headed. It's gonna definitely take a few more years for them to be able to continue to try to work things out and figure out where they're gonna be. So they have, like I said, they have a couple young pieces that are definitely solid. It's just a matter of will they develop into something that you can build a roster around going forward, and obviously only time will tell on that one. As I mentioned, they did release Jordan Reed, and they also signed Wes Schweitzer to start at left guard, so trying to buff up that offensive line a little bit. But they didn't really make any, unless I completely missed something, which is definitely possible. But I didn't really see anything super massive that they made in the off season to bring anybody in. So it looks like they're going to try to go the old-fashioned route of a rebuild through the draft. So we'll definitely get into that in a second. But moving on into the defense, not fantastic either. 27th in yards allowed per game, 18th in passing yards, 31st in rushing yards, and 27th in points allowed. So they were bottom 5 in both offensive scoring and defensive points allowed. Usually not a good combination to win football games. I was actually surprised that they won 3 games, to be honest with you. There were definitely some times where it looked like the team was bad enough to have maybe win 1 game. But they did, like I said, they did have a couple showings where they actually played good football. So it was so confusing. Like those couple games that they put it together, they looked like a completely different football team than the rest of the season when it just felt like they were getting run over every game, even if the scores were close.
Dwayne Haskins had a couple of good showings, like showing some of his talent, and so I think they, obviously they have a lot of decisions to make, and it could be, they end up not going with them, which I don't think there's a really perfect decision here. But I think Dwayne Haskins showed some stuff. I'm not going to say he looked amazing, but he showed glimpses of some pretty solid basics, I'd say.
Yeah,
and so I think there's a lot of room there for development.
Yeah, and I definitely think he showed potential for sure. I definitely think they're gonna go with him to start the season. What I'm interested to see is how long of a leash they'll give him. Like if he gets off to like a 2 or 3 week bad start, do they start thinking about putting Alex Smith back in? Like do they get value of putting Alex Smith back in at this point in his career? He's not gonna be able to, especially after that leg injury. I'd be very surprised if he's able to play for even 2 or 3 more seasons. Would be kind of amazing. Does it make sense to try to give him that shot to start? I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see what kind of leeway they give him. Anyone on the defensive side of football, they signed Kendall Fuller to start at corner, as well as Thomas Davis Sr. to start at linebacker. Again, I don't necessarily see the pickup here that completely helps reshape this offense or this defense. So it's just going to be a matter of trying to hope that pieces develop. Some of the younger guys get better. They find some guys in the draft. That's what they're looking for here. Which, I mean, it makes sense when if you don't want to go the route of trying to spend a bunch of money in free agency and rebuild the team that way, it makes sense to try to rebuild the team through the draft and do it this way. It's just unfortunate that you've got a couple, like I said, you've got a few young pieces, but you don't really have that core that you can point to and say, these guys are ready. You have a lot of guys that have just raw potential, and then you have to kind of wait and see, but you can't, there's not that one guy that you know is going to be a stud for you. You know what I mean? I would say Terry McLaurin is borderline for that. I think if he starts off hot this season, I think you definitely know you've got something there. But it is going to be a matter of how does he continue to mesh with Dwayne Haskins and the rest of that offense. I did quick side note. If I remember correctly, and I'm not going to go back and look this up, But I do believe that like through the first like 5 or 6 games of the season, they had one game where their lead rusher was over 40 yards. That is abysmal. I'm sorry. I think Adrian Peterson had like 68 yards in the fifth or sixth week, and other than that, the high was 37 yards. If I remember correctly, like that is not okay. That can't happen. Um, Anyways, that's enough ranting about what this team did last year. Um, Hopefully, for all you Washington fans out there, this team is able to turn it around for next season, and put themselves in a better position to compete, or at least give you better hope of what the future could look like down in DC. Anyways, they made 8 picks this year, and the first one, most notably, who I think everybody that is watching this video almost certainly knows who he is. He was one of the like headlining players of the draft, Chase Young, defensive end out of Ohio State. I don't think it's possible to say enough about this kid. He's easily the most physically gifted player in the draft. Um, it is I would say fairly likely that he will develop into a premier edge rusher. He has active hands and closing speed to match his initial burst. He can still improve a bit getting off of blocks, but he's still a good run defender regardless, and so he's just even got that room to get even better. To absolutely no one's surprise, he's predicted to start at defensive end this season, and he has the potential to become one of the league's best at the position, in my opinion. Um, I definitely think that this is about as close to a sure thing as you can get. Um, he's shown everything that you can ask for, potential-wise, and he's hungry, and I think that he's going to put the league on notice at a few points this season. I don't know that he alone is good enough to completely, turn this defense around, but we were just talking about trying to find yourself a cornerstone to build around for years to come. This could be, and in my opinion, probably is one of those guys that you can definitely do that with. Now you know you're going to have somebody that can pressure off the edge. You know is going to be able to contain and run defense. He's just going to be able to be an impactful player in as long as he's on the field. So I definitely like this pickup. Not a whole lot to analyze. It was the second pick in the draft, so I think everybody kind of knew that this was how it was going to go. Most people expected Burrow to go 1 and Young to go 2, so not a whole lot of surprises here, but definitely a good find for this defense. Next up, we've got Antonio Gibson, a wide receiver out of Memphis. Now, quick note, they did not have a second-round pick, so this is actually their third-round pick. But he was a hybrid wide receiver and running back kind of mix combo. He's got solid burst through the hole, as well as potential to kind of gain chunks of yards after the catch. His top end speed makes him a threat in space, and he's strong enough to pick up yards after contact. He's shown flashes of good patience. Are you okay over there?
Yep, just a quick sip that went down the wrong.
He's got corona. COVID-19.
Yep, I have corona. That's it.
Corona, COVID-19.
I've had post-nasal drip for like the past,
COVID-19 confirmed. Weeks. Everyone run and hide.
Oh my god.
Confirmed. No doubt.
Listen, just shut the fuck up.
Fair enough. He's shown flashes.
That's just fair enough.
I mean, what do you want me to do? I'm trying to get back to the video.
Fair. I'll let you get back to
it. Antonio Gibson. Still, flashes of good patience and instincts as a ball carrier. He's not necessarily a great route runner, but he's got good flexibility to move around the formation. He is technically projected to be running back 3 on this roster. These are, I believe these are still just ESPN predictions. They're not necessarily like official for the team yet, and I kind of disagree with them here. I definitely think that while he may be running back 3 on the roster, I definitely think that they will look to find ways to get him involved in the wide receiving core as well. Just kind of maybe get him out wide, get him in the slot. I can't speak. Get him out wide or get him in the slot. Just try to give themselves an opportunity to get the ball in his hands. So I definitely think that he'll get more touches than the average running back 3 in an offense. Obviously, I could be wrong, but I just think that flexibility gives them too many options for him to just kind of get lost in that offense and not really get a chance to see what he can do. So I definitely think that even though he's listed kind of further down the depth charts, this is actually the one exception to that rule, and I think that he will absolutely be able to make an impact this season. Anyways, next up, Sadiq Charles, offensive tackle out of LSU. He is a strong run blocker, and he gets to the second level well. He's physically gifted, but he has shorter arms for a tackle, and he still has some work to do with his technique. He primarily lined up at left tackle, but he's also been known to play both right tackle and right guard. He is currently listed as third string right tackle. That kind of flexibility around the offensive line does lend itself well to him being able to kind of make a career for himself. As long as he can show some improvement on that technique and continue to improve, I definitely think that he'll stay on the roster. I don't know necessarily that, barring injury, he'll earn the starting job this season. But somebody that going forward at least will be a good guy to have on the depth chart, somebody that'll be able to step in and fill in multiple roles if you need him to. Now, is this the most gaping hole for the team? Not necessarily. Does it fill a hole? I would say yes.
I mean, listen, on this team, there is no possible way that this team fills every hole, regardless of free agency or draft, because, I mean, listen, the boat is Swiss cheese. It's just about, filling what you can before the season starts, because they're sinking and they're still stuck in the fucking port.
Damn, I wouldn't have been that harsh, but go off, I guess.
I mean, listen, it's just true.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong.
Oh, and they keep forgetting to pull the anchor up. The anchor is Dan Snyder.
Oh, here we go. Okay. I don't know. I think that his flexibility makes him a strong candidate to kind of find his way in the league, get himself on the roster for years to come, and continue, give himself a chance to continue to improve. I just don't know. I don't know. I'm quite honestly, I'm really torn on what to think of this kid. It's always hard for me as well trying to do offensive linemen because it's just such a different game watching their tape as opposed to watching them against NFL rushers. So I think that the jury will still be out on this one, and we're just gonna kind of have to wait and see, kind of what he turns into as time goes on. Next up, they went with Antonio Gandy Golden, wide receiver out of Liberty. He is a big target. What? Anyways.
Gandy's back.
I have no idea who you're referring to, but I'm going to just continue.
You've never heard of Gandhi?
Oh, Gandhi's back. I didn't hear what you said.
It's just a really shitty joke.
It was terrible, disgustingly bad, and it just interrupted my flow.
It was. Honestly, I'm not going to tell you to cut it, but, cut it.
I'm not cutting it. It would require me to edit on a video. We have 2 videos, and that is a lot of work. Antonio Gandy Golden.
It's not cut-worthy.
Antonio Gandy Golden, wide receiver out of Liberty. He's a big target and natural pass catcher.
Let me interrupt you one more time.
We just talked over this kid's entire highlights, bro.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You owe him an apology, but continue.
I'm sorry, Antonio Gandy Golden.
Oh, that was the joke. Oh my God, Matt.
Jesus, you didn't figure it.
I didn't pronounce it like that in my head, so no, I didn't connect the dots.
Oh.
Anyways, what were you interrupting me for?
Just to say, I interrupted you a bunch already, and this one person, so we're gonna do it one more time.
Fuck you.
Fair.
He's a big target and natural pass catcher. I don't know if I've said that before, but now I definitely have. He's also got the ability to make highlight catches. He's got some questionable top-end speed. It actually looked like it could be a red flag, but it was noted that he plays a bit faster than what his time speed was. He does have the ability to make one-on-one catches down the field, but he lacks the burst and fluidity to really create separation on his breaks. He's currently listed as a wide receiver 3. Part of the reason why I was talking earlier about Antonio Gibson getting more involved in the offense than where they had him listed is because I personally think that he's got just as much promise as a wide receiver, if not slightly more. than Antonio does, kind of further down. So I definitely expect for both of them to see the field this season and both of them get some looks. It's just going to be a matter of how they play once they get up to an NFL level. Anyways, now that we ruined that poor kid's, that was his moment, man, and we ruined it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's gonna be like 20 people, maybe like somewhere between like 0 and 20 people are gonna be very sad for him.
Fair. Um. Anyways, uh, Keith Ismail, center out of San Diego State. He's a technically sound pass blocker. Uh, he works his hands inside and fights to stay in front of his man. He's also quick and takes smart angles when getting to the second level. He's also and he's also tough and plays through the whistle. So I always try to bring that up if I see it noted, because that's something that you can't really teach. So the fact that somebody, like, when guys have that kind of motor, that kind of mentality, it's always good to see, because you can teach them a lot of the fundamentals. You can teach them better hand placement, better footwork, better technique as a whole. What you can't teach is that desire to continue to fight, and it definitely seems like he has that. Um, he has some experience playing guard, so a position switch wouldn't be completely out of the question if it looks like he's going to be better suited playing somewhere else. Um, he is listed as a third string center. Something I've just kind of noticed is even just through the first few picks, and I'm sure you guys have probably noticed it too, they went with a lot of guys that are like have the ability to kind of flex around the team a little bit, flex around the lineup, flex around the formation, whatever they kind of need these guys to do. And I think that makes sense given the amount of holes that this team has. They're looking for guys that somebody gets injured, you don't necessarily know who your next man up is, so having guys that can kind of step in and play multiple positions becomes very important for this team. Help them get overall depth, kind of one guy covering depth at multiple positions, even if they're not necessarily listed that way. I wouldn't be surprised if that was indeed the case. So it's just going to be a matter of waiting for this team to develop, I think, kind of waiting to see what they do or don't have long term, and kind of trying to go from there. Next up, we've got Colleek Hudson, outside linebacker out of Michigan. He's now, okay, technically the draft has him listed as an outside linebacker. Normally I say this at the end, but he's technically on the depth charts as a third string free safety. So I did some googling, and I've seen him listed as a linebacker safety combo. It does seem a little unusual that what seems to be his secondary position is the position that he's on the depth charts for. But I think that continues to reinforce what I was just talking about in terms of this team looking for guys that can play multiple positions. The fact that he's flexible enough to do that is a good sign. He's a little bit undersized with short arms for outside linebacker, but that doesn't necessarily mean that remains the same for safety. He's got great time speed, flashes of good power when he plays downhill, and he's also got active hands and a good closing burst when he's rushing off the edge. So he's got a variety of tools that he can pull from. It's just a matter of what he is able to, continue to perform at an NFL level, or whether that is safety, outside linebacker, whatever it is. Just being able to take advantage of those opportunities. Next up, we got Carmen Curl, another safety, this one out of Arkansas. He's got good size, long arms, but below average top-end speed. He's a versatile defensive back. He can kind of play corner or safety, kind of, again, continue with that theme. He's active in run support, and he tackles well. And he's also got the potential to contribute on special teams. He's instinctive, but he has less than average range, and his change of direction skills are not exactly up to where you want them to be. But again, these are guys that they can kind of flex multiple positions. I believe he was on the roster or on the depth charts as a fourth string strong safety, if I remember correctly. But it's going to be another one of the cases where we kind of just have to wait and see what he's able to develop into, what his options are playing at an NFL level. We are getting kind of near into the end of the draft here, this 7th round pick here, so it wouldn't be terribly surprising if these guys don't necessarily get a lot of playing time this year. I do think the team is in bad enough shape that most of these guys will get signed and will at least make the active roster. Whether they play or not is something different, but they will at least be given, I believe, in my opinion at least, I believe that most of, if not all of these guys will be given at least the opportunity to see what they can do. Next up, and their final pick in the draft, we got James Smith-Williams out of NC State. I believe he was listed as a defensive end. He's got good length, and he ran the fastest 40 out of all defensive linemen. He shows considerable upside on tape, was what I was reading. Now, again, like I was saying, especially when you get to some of these not necessarily huge football teams like at NC State, it's kind of hard to tell what they're going to be able to perform at an NFL level. So I'm going to defer to the experts here, and if they say that he's got considerable upside, I'm going to agree with them. I definitely saw kind of what they were looking at, but I'm always hesitant because you don't necessarily know how that's going to translate to the next level of competition, especially again once you get into some of these not as huge football schools. But he's strong enough to set the edge against the run, and he flashes the ability to win with power. He's got the tools to develop into an effective edge rusher. It's just going to be a matter of kind of giving him that time and giving him that ability to kind of continue to improve and work on his game. He's listed as I wanted to check and confirm this. He is listed as the backup right defensive end to Chase Young. So a very, very young position for them. And if he's given the opportunity, if Chase Young needs a rest or if he, knock on wood, gets injured or anything like that, it'll be interesting to see if Williams can step in and kind of solidify himself as somebody that's going to be on the roster to go forward. But again, all of these guys are going to be looking to do the same thing. They're all going to be looking forward to take their opportunity and run with it, especially on a team that has, as we were talking about, quite a few holes to fill. All of these guys, I think, will be given more than a fair shot to step in and see what they can do. I've finally gotten through, Matt. You ready to give this draft grade? It's kind of a hard one to give.
Sure.
So here's what I'm looking at. The team was in bad shape. They had a lot of holes to fill, which kind of put them in an impossible situation in the draft. I'm not going to, I mean, again, there's not a whole lot to analyze about the Chase Young pick, that he was kind of the obvious pick there, but kind of everything else, the rest of the way through, kind of feels like they were drafting more for kind of flexibility, guys that they felt like they could play, that would have the ability to flex around multiple positions if needed, potentially spend some time in multiple positions, see where they fit the best. But I don't necessarily know that they, outside of Chase Young, have that, one guy that's going to put them over the edge or make a huge impact this season. I hope I'm wrong, but I do see a lot of guys that are kind of more project pieces. Like, they definitely have, in my opinion, they definitely have solid upside and definitely can develop into solid NFL players. It's just a matter of how will they develop, how will their games translate, how long will it take for them to get up to that NFL speed. But again, outside of Chase Young, I don't know that I see that guy that's going to step in this season and like really make a statement for this team. You disagree with me?
No, I don't. Well, I think they're outside their first round draft pick. I mean, I don't think anyone really. They have a lot of guys who can fill lots of little holes. No one was gonna, go out there and be that starter at one position that's crucial for them.
Yeah, I mean, even we were talking about your terrible joke, Antonio Gandy Golden. He's listed as wide receiver 3, which, I mean, definitely means that he'll be on the field. He'll definitely get some looks, but is he going to be that guy that's going to, break the coverage open and really open up the field for the offense? I don't know if that's him. So it's kind of hard to rate this team because on the one hand, they gave themselves a lot of guys that are flexible to cover multiple positions, so they definitely buffed up their depth charts for sure. They didn't necessarily make an impact player for this season. They drafted a lot of guys that have a lot of potential going forward but aren't ready just yet. And so for most teams, that would be kind of a bad sign. But I also feel like that's kind of the direction that the team needed to look. Like, they're not ready. Quite frankly, I don't see a world in which they're ready to compete seriously next season.
Absolutely not.
Right? So this is, I think, one of the few cases where the fact that they didn't draft guys that are NFL ready right now is not the only thing to take into account because the team just isn't ready to win next year. So if they take 2-3 years to develop, as long as they develop, that's fine. So it's kind of a rough one for me to grade. I'm kind of tempted to slot them in at a B minus. Do you have an opinion?
No, I think that's fair. I lean more towards the B. I feel like they had a just overall solid draft. I really didn't dislike any of their picks. I wasn't too crazy about the third round draft pick, but overall I feel like wasn't really. I don't think they did anything necessarily bad per se.
Yeah, I think that that's fair. I think I will give them the B. I mean, Chase Young is like, I'm trying not to harp on him because like everybody knows so much about him. You know what I mean? But he's definitely going to be, in my opinion, he's as close to a sure thing as you can get in terms of production coming out of the draft immediately next season. I definitely expect him to be a stud. So, I mean, that alone is probably enough to push them over the edge. But kind of looking down the line, everything else is just kind of like a. I found myself saying quite a bit. We're gonna, jury's out. We're gonna have to wait and see. We're gonna have to wait and see. We're gonna have to wait and see. Which is always the case with these guys, and so I normally try not to point it out. But if it's really just a case of raw potential and they've got to work with him, that's when I feel like I don't have a choice but to bring it up. And I felt like I was doing that quite a lot. So, um, I think this is definitely one of those drafts where you'll have a much better perspective on how the team actually drafted 3 to 5 years from now. After they've kind of had a chance to get their feet wet in the league, see what they can do, see what they can develop into, I think that's when you'll have a better sense for how this team drafted. Um, I just think that they're quite frankly not ready to win next season, so picking up some of those guys is not necessarily a bad thing. So I think that's why they're going to end up at a B for me. Anything else that you want to add before I go ahead and wrap this up?
Not particularly.
All right, so if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. My computer is having a heart attack for some reason. I'm trying to. Okay. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Windows just crashed. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is interesting. So I wonder what the recording looks like right now, if it looks like anything. Essentially, I tried to open the. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear.
This is. I'm gonna send you a Snapchat of kind of what I'm looking at right now. Essentially, what's just taking place is. Oh. Hold on. Interesting. So I was trying to, like I was saying, I was trying to boot up the Excel file for the podcast, so I could kind of just talk about what teams we had, what couple of teams that we had left, and also just for me to start kind of crossing off what was happening. And the file explorer just completely bugged and like crashed Windows for a second.
Interesting.
That was really weird. Interesting. I'm gonna try to open that file again, and it opened perfectly fine this time. Interesting. Anyways, I'm completely thrown off now, but like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Like I was saying in the beginning, we do not own the rights to any of the clips that I was shown in this video, so I'll make sure to leave the links to those videos in the description down below. So make sure to check those out. Also in the description, we've got the links to our social media, so both our Twitter and our Instagram are there. We're not particularly active on those, but if you also click on the Discord link in our description and come on over and say what's up, we're definitely active in there. We would definitely be sure to respond to you. We'll talk sports, esports, kind of anything. Just come on over and say hi. We're about to go record right now Matt's Philadelphia Phillies preseason kind of outlook, so be sure to keep a lookout for that for today. In terms of what we got next up for the rest of the week, we've only got 3 videos left in these 2 series that we were doing.
Well,
Technically
I got 2
2
left. You got.
Well, outside of the Phillies, I'm not counting that because that's also coming out
Oh.
today. We've got technically the only 2 that are left are the Eagles and the Yankees. Now, if somehow anyone that remembers the very, very first NFL draft video that I did on the Arizona Cardinals, first of all, if you didn't, please don't go look it up. I'm tempted to actually unlist it. These videos took a very different shape as time went on than they had when I was first starting out. It was supposed to be very, very kind of like top down, not really getting too much into the draft picks, just kind of a glancing over look at it. And I received a lot of heat for not going too in depth into their off-season moves and stuff like that. So I'm actually going to remake that Cardinals video tomorrow. So make sure to check out for that. And then
Oh, I
Matt.
keep forgetting we added that to the schedule. I'm like,
Yep.
what exactly do we have?
Yep. So I'm gonna go back and remake that tomorrow. So also that'll be coming out along with Matt's 3-hour Yankee special that I've been told to
Okay,
make
I
some
don't know.
popcorn for.
Listen, I don't know if it's gonna be 3 hour. It's gonna be long. It's gonna be a longer video. I'm gonna try to go pretty in depth into different parts of this team. So it's gonna be a labor of passion, of love.
And I'm gonna pass out while waiting for you to record. But anyways,
Shut up.
no, not because I'm bored, but just because it's so long and I don't really say much. So it's just kind of like, you know what I mean? Anyways,
It's the Yankees. You'll have plenty to say.
fair. Anyways, and then Friday we wrap up both of these series. Well, Matt finishes technically his tomorrow, and Friday will just be the Philadelphia Eagles for me, and that will be the end of the series. So if anybody has anything that they would like to see us do starting next week, I've already kind of queued up a few basketball videos since the bubble is getting ready to kind of start the NBA season back up down in Orlando. So we have those kind of slotted in for next week, but we don't necessarily have a plan going forward. So come on over to our Discord, give us some ideas. If you want to drop some ideas down in the comment section, feel free. I think I've rambled on for enough time now, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Again, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Peace.